Hello, good morning everyone. Now we will finish some of the questions remaining in chapter number 8, Emerging Technologies. Okay, first let me ask some questions. In mobile computing, what are the benefits of mobile computing?
Happy customers. No. Happy employees, increased oh, no, it's beyond that.
Yes, what are the benefits? 3 times access, 1 time update, and 2 times improve. What do we access? Work order details, corporate services, corporate database. Then we update work order status, and then we improve information flow and management effectiveness. So these were the benefits of mobile computing. Now we will see how does the mobile computing work. First, user will access the data using his handheld computing device. It can be either your mobile phone, smartphone, or your laptop or tablet. You will try to access the data using your handheld computing device. Now data is transferred from this device to server and vice versa. Data may either be stored on your device or it may be stored on the server. It is on your discretion. Here the user's device may or may not be connected to the server. Okay, we are talking about physical connectivity here. It is connected logically. Okay, so physical connectivity is not important. Here data will be transferred till both have same data. Okay, till when the data will be transferred? Till the server and the device both have the same data and both are in synchronization. That is why I have said both are in sync. Okay, so basically what you have to tell here is that there is no physical connection. There may or may not be a physical connection. It is a logical connection. Then it is between handheld computing device and server. Both should be in synchronization for data transmission. So that is only what you have to write if they ask how does mobile computing work. After this, now let's see what are the components of mobile computing. First one is mobile communication. Here, what they are talking about is the infrastructure of our mobile. Infrastructure for our mobile, the towers and all, we require it so that we can do communication. Then we have some protocols how to access that service, the data format in which the data is transferred, and what are the technologies that we are using as a mobile company. So for mobile communication, we require infrastructure, protocols for accessing the network, then data formats to understand that what kind of data we are transmitting, and then technologies for data transmission. So for mobile communication, remember these 4 points. Then mobile hardware. Now what all will come in mobile hardware? Your laptops, tablets, personal computers, all of these in the front end, and application server, database server in the back end. Now, why do we need these servers in the backend? To provide communication functionality. If we don't have servers, we cannot communicate with each other. So basically what you have to do is you have to just make a list here of what are the components and you have to write it. You don't have to explain it, anything. Then mobile software. Once again in mobile hardware, in the front end, what do we have? These are basically your handheld computing devices. And in the back end, what do you have? We have application server and database server. Now in mobile software, we have to talk about the operating system, then application software. Now, whenever you download an application on your mobile phones, if you want to store the data in your mobile phones, it asks you permission to store data or access media. So that is how the application software is supposed to ask permission for your personal data. Operating system will never ask you permission to access your personal data. So in mobile software, there are two things: system software and application software. In mobile hardware, we have to mention what is there in front end and what is there in the back end. And in mobile communication, you have to mention infrastructure, protocols, data formats, and technology. You can remember it as IDT. Yes, can anyone tell me why does the application software ask permission to store the data? Is there any need to ask permission if we have ourselves downloaded the app?
Yes, sir, because the data gets, our data gets automatically stored in their database, application software database, or application developers database.
Okay, but see now, suppose I am using Facebook now. I want to upload a picture now. So whenever I am uploading a picture or there is a picture on the Facebook that I want to download, for downloading also it is asking permission that do you want us to allow access to your media. Okay, now no data is being uploaded on their server. Now data is being downloaded to our storage space. Then why is it asking permission to store data?
Still, the hackers or crackers can have an access to your data through this application, sir.
See, whenever you access an application, there are certain cache files. What are cache files? Next time when you open that application, it will load faster. If you don't allow it to store any data on your mobile phones, it has to download everything again, and then you will be able to see everything again. But if you give it permission to store data on your mobile phones, it will load faster because of the cache files. Now, this is the first reason. The second reason is there is always a risk that application software may be an illegal application software. It might not be a legal or a valid application software. So it is not the application software that is asking permission. It is actually the operating system asking us question, do you want to allow access to this application software to allow storing data on your mobile? Okay, it is not actually application software, it is actually the operating system software that is trying to tell you that do you trust this application software, and if you trust it, do you want to give it permission to store data on your mobile phone? So these are the two reasons. Now what you have to do is in this question itself we have to mention these points: the risk involved in relation to application software and why does it ask for permission. Now let's see. the limitations of mobile computing. What are the problems that we have in mobile computing? First one is insufficient bandwidth. Okay, who are we comparing it to? We are comparing it to LAN. LAN is local area network. So if we compare it to the LAN, mobile computing speed is very low. Further, mobiles are slower than direct cable connections. What is GPRS? GPRS is General Packet Radio Service. Then GSM is Global System for Mobile Communication. Then Edge is Enhanced Data for GSM Evolution. Okay. What is GSM? I have mentioned it earlier, and so that and then later I have given what is the full form of Edge. Okay. These things can come as MCQs. You don't need to write them in your short notes and answers. Then 3G networks. Okay, we have 3G networks and 4G networks. Okay, when this syllabus was being framed, they emitted the point that a 4G network can be developed. And your mobile phones will work only if we are near the cell phone towers. Okay, if we are very far away from the cell phone towers, we will not be able to get any range. For example, if you are visiting your any of the rural areas, you might not get any range for your mobile phones. And wireless LANs have limited range. Okay, there are some LANs which are wireless. They also have a limited range. So there is a problem in relation to bandwidth. Okay, that is all you have to say, and mention that if you are near to the cell phone towers, only then you can get some reception. Then security standards. If you are using mobile phones, it is preferable that you are using VPN to access the public networks. What is a VPN? VPN is a virtual private network. But nowadays, even this VPN can be attacked by the hackers. So security standards is still an issue in mobile computing. Even if you are using antivirus software, even if you are using lock passwords, even if you are using VPNs, still your mobiles can be hacked. Yes, do you know how to use a VPN?
No, sir.
Okay. That is because you have not accessed any public network till now. That is why you don't need a VPN. Okay. Then power consumption. We are using batteries in our mobile phones. These batteries cannot be replaced easily. Sometimes it happens that if your battery of your phone is dead or gone, you have to replace your mobile entirely. This can happen. So these devices have to rely on battery power only. If you remove that battery and try to charge your mobile phone is not going to work. Okay, that is why the battery is the most important thing in case of mobile. That is what they are trying to say. Then transmission interference. Okay, the first point we were talking about insufficient bandwidth. Now we are talking about transmission interference. Now we have bandwidth, but we are not able to still gain that kind of bandwidth. Oh, sorry, communication. So whether if it is a rainy season, we might not get reception. Then terrain. If you go to any fort or any high location, like in the hilly areas and all, still you there are some spots where you might not get some reception. Then location of tower. If we are very far away from the tower, I'm not talking about in meters, I'm talking about in miles, then obviously we might not get any reception. Then if we are going through tunnels, or there are specific buildings or rural areas. Okay. So these are some of the locations and reasons why we might not achieve that kind of bandwidth. Then potential health hazards. If you are using a mobile phone while you are driving, there are certain instances of traffic accidents. It can happen. So avoid using your mobile phones when driving. Then allegations. Okay, nowadays you can see a lot of information or literature that says that using mobile phones can cause health problems. Okay, you should not use your mobile phones for more than 15 to 20 minutes. It eats your brain cells, and once your brain develops the habit of destroying brain cells, there is a instances of memory loss. Okay, you forget everything. Okay, if you are reading a book, you remember the image of the book. Okay, how you have read that book. Okay, what is the color, what is the page, you entirely memorize that page, but whatever you read on the internet, you forget everything. Okay. So that is one of the, so there are many allegations in relation to the same. Then human interface with device. Now your mobile device doesn't have a big keyboard, it has a small virtual keyboard. Okay, if the user has big fingers, then it is very difficult to type in whatever he wants to convey. And also in some of the cases, if you are pressing one key, another key is being pressed, because of which there might be some inconvenience. Now we also have speech and handwriting recognition, but for that also you need some training, or it takes some time for you to understand fully how to use them, speech recognition and handwriting recognition. So these were the limitations of mobile computing. Once again, insufficient bandwidth, security standards, power consumption, transmission interference, potential health hazards, and human interface with device. You can remember this question by high SPTP. High SPTP. What is high? Human interface with device, insufficient bandwidth, then SPTP, security standards, potential health hazards, transmission interference, and power consumption. Okay. Remember this question by high SPTP. Now let's see what are the issues in mobile computing. What we saw earlier, those were the limitations in mobile computing. Okay, those are permanent in nature. Whatever you do, those are going to be there. Okay, what all security measures you use, what all antivirus you use, what all VPN you used, your mobile are always going to be vulnerable to hackers. That is why they have just instead of giving it in the issues, they have given it in the limitations. Now let's see what are the issues in relation to mobile computing. These are similar to pertinent issues in cloud computing. First one is integration with legacy mainframe. Integration with legacy mainframe. Now you are working on your mobile phones and all. This mobile phone needs to be connected to the server. Sometimes these mobile phones, they are not compatible with the servers. Okay, and if there is no integration, it may happen that your mobile phones might not access some data or might not be able to retrieve some data. So here the main focus is integration with the legacy mainframe. Sure, it will integrate itself with another computers and all, but there might be some problem while integration with the legacy mainframe. Okay, instead of calling it legacy mainframe, you can call it server. Then
So please repeat the 1 minute.
yes. Here for this point, just remember that the legacy mainframe or the server must communicate with the handheld computing device. Due to incompatibility, both will not be able to communicate. That is why integration with legacy mainframe is a issue in mobile computing. Okay. The only point that you have to write here is, it is very important that the server and your device both are integrated, both can communicate. If they cannot communicate, data cannot be transferred. Okay, why the data is not being transferred? Because both of them are incompatible. Okay, it is just like you are explaining a circle. Okay, first you are telling that both must be connected, then you are telling both cannot be connected, then you are telling why they cannot be connected. Okay, only these 3 points you have to tell in integration with legacy mainframe. Yes, sir. Have you understood what you are supposed to write?
That is, it is the server and it must communicate with the handheld devices. And the last point I did not follow. What is it, sir?
Both must be communicated. Now, if there is no communication, what is the reason? Because both are incompatible.
Incompatible. Okay.
Okay. So what is the issue here? Integration with legacy mainframe cannot be achieved in all the cases. That is the issue here. Sure, it can be
Okay.
it is compatible with some of the devices, can communicate, but till now there are issues that it is not compatible with all the devices. That is why we are included in the issues.
Okay. Okay.
Then we have business challenges. Now, what are the business challenges? For developing the framework for using the data using your mobile phones, you need professionals. Now, these kind of professionals, they are not available. Even if there are professionals available, we have to give them training again. We have to give them information. We have to give them sensitive business information. Then you have to tell them that you have to make it user friendly. If they are not user friendly, the people who don't have the knowledge how to access an application might not understand it. So we have to give professionals training that how a users think or what is the user's perspective. And then these are the professionals who have to do the testing whether the application is viable or not, whether it can be launched in the market or not. So what are the business challenges is, we don't have professionals who know how to prepare a framework in mobile computing. Okay, we have to give even professionals some training. After that, they are able to develop a framework. So training professionals is an issue in mobile computing, and testing it so that users can use the app is also an issue in mobile computing. Okay, so training professionals is a problem, and testing application for user is a problem. Now, security issues. What are the security issues in that? First is CIA. What is CIA?
Confidentiality, integrity, availability.
Now tell me, someone accessed my data, they saw what all the data was there, but didn't alter the data. What has happened here?
Confidentiality.
The confidentiality was not maintained. Now someone has altered the data.
Integrity.
Okay, so the integrity of the data has been lost. And availability is, I am not able to access the data. So these are the security issues. Sometimes in mobile phones, you might not be able to access the data. If you are uploading a data, someone might hack it. They might not alter it, and sometimes they may also alter it. After this, legitimate. What is a legitimate? The virtual private networks that you are using sometimes can be used for accessing illegal websites. or sometimes the virtual private networks themselves are illegal networks. So you have to go into the policy. You have to see whether it is a legal company or not. You have to do some research, and only after that you are supposed to include it in your business policy, what kind of VPN you are using. Okay, you cannot use any VPN that you come across on the internet. You have to make a contract with them. You have to make sure they are legal VPNs, and you have to make sure that your data is safe if you are using that VPN. To take those measures, then legitimate, or there will not be any legal issues. Okay. Legal repercussions is the point in one of your computer crime exposures. Okay. Or you can also say impact of cyber frauds on information systems. Then another security issue is accountability. In mobile computing, we must be able to identify, okay, from where the attack was done or how the system was hacked. Okay, this is only possible if accountability is there. So to maintain this accountability is also an issue, because there might not be any trail how the system was hacked. Now, who is going to hack the system? Unauthorized person. So while writing this point, security issues, start this point with, we are trying to prevent unauthorized access. We are preventing unauthorized access to ensure confidentiality, integrity, availability. Explain what is confidentiality, integrity, availability. After that, you have to write, there may be legal issues and accountability must be maintained. Okay. Now, try to write one line only. Don't write it in detail, because they may ask all the 9 points or only headings for 4 marks. You don't have to write them in detail. Only 1 or 2 lines is sufficient. Then again, bandwidth. Now bandwidth is also a limitation and also an issue. Now here they have given solution that we have found till bandwidth till now. What we will do is, whenever we are transmitting data, we will compress that data and we will send it, so that it is sent at a faster rate. Okay. That is one thing that you can do in relation to bandwidth. The second thing is the cache files. When it asks when the application software is trying to store any data on your mobile phone, the operating software will tell you that it is asking permission to store data. If it starts storing data, what will happen is, next time when you access the application, it will load a bit faster using those cache files. Okay. Remember, you are supposed to clear all those cache files after a period of time. Okay, so that it doesn't just lie in your mobile phones. Then, if you are compressing the data and you are using cache files, the response will be optimum, or the response time will be reduced. Okay. It will be the response will be received immediately. Now, if you are using compression and caching, even if sometimes you get disconnected to the internet, you might see some information. So that is also possible if you are using cache files. Here, so for disconnected operations, remember, there are always cache files. Here in this point, you have to also mention what can happen if your internet is disconnected. Then, location intelligence. Your mobile phones must have the intelligence on its own to switch from infrared waves to radio waves. Okay, when it should switch from infrared waves to radio waves, when we are moving from indoor to outdoor. When you are indoor, it must use infrared waves, and when you are outdoor, it must use radio waves. After this, if the internet is not working, you must switch from cellular mode to satellite mode. Okay. cellular mode to satellite mode. And your mobile phones must also be able to do load balancing. What is load balancing? Just like we have stabilizers in relation to power surges, for data fluctuations also we have some load balancers. So you have to also mention here load balancing in location intelligence. That is the main point for location intelligence, load balancing. Yes, can you tell me which cloud computing service models had this point of load balancing?
Infrastructure as a service.
Infrastructure as a service. After this, again, power consumption. Now, power consumption is also a limitation in mobile computing. What we can do here in power consumption is we can use a chips in the mobile phones. Using these chips, it will optimize your battery power. The operations that you are doing on your mobile phones, they will require less power. So you will optimally use your battery power. That is only what you have to write in power consumption. Then revising technical architecture. Revising technical architecture. Now, if your application software, it is not user friendly, or if you are when using it outside the mobile phone, it is working and it is best, but in the mobile phone, if you are using it, it is not working properly. So what you have to do is you have to keep on revising the technical architecture. You are supposed to make changes. You are supposed to keep it updated so that it can meet the user's demand. So that is what you have to write in revising technical architecture. Then reliability, coverage, capacity, cost. Okay, the cost of internet, if you are using it in a wireless mode, it is very high if you compare it with cable connections and LANs. Also, those are less reliable as there is always a possibility of hacking. If you are using a LAN and it is a protected LAN, there is very less probability of getting hacked. Then if you are using a wireless media, then the bandwidth is also low. We talked about bandwidth in the last, in this question also, and in the last question also. And we need to come up with some innovative product that will increase our bandwidth. It will reduce the cost. Okay. Again, this syllabus was framed when the Jio was not the largest mobile company in the country, or you can say in the entire world. Okay, so that is why it is saying that there must be some innovation. Okay, do you know the rates, mobile internet rates, what they were 4 years back? Was it 5 rupees per day for 1.5 GB internet? Okay, 4 years to 5 years back, if you wanted internet of around 1.5 GB or 1 GB, you had to give 200 to 300 rupees as per your service provider. Now you are getting 1.5 GB data daily for only around 4 rupees to 5 rupees. So we have already achieved an innovative product. Reliability, coverage, capacity, and cost. All these factors have been eliminated now by Jio company. And the last point is end-to-end design and performance. You have to make sure that the user is able to access the data immediately whenever he demands it. Okay, so the performance must be good, or you can also say response time must be less. Then we must be able to increase bandwidth. It must be user friendly. It must be innovative. Again, we are repeating what are the points in the earlier point. And it is a bit difficult to install or cover all the areas. So that is why we are saying end-to-end design and performance. You can't cover all the processes. You can't understand what all additional processes you need to install and design. So it is also an issue in mobile computing. So in end-to-end design and performance, you can see that including all the services in mobile computing is an issue. Any point you want me to repeat here? Issues in mobile computing? Okay. Now we will continue with Web 2.0. What is Web 2.0? It is the second generation of World Wide Web. Here our focus is on sharing and collaboration. Okay. Now there are three examples of web. First example is World Wide Web. What used to happen before in World Wide Web? We used to prepare websites, then we used to post some information. Then there was no media, how we could share that information with everyone. What we used to do is, if someone asks that where can I find this information, we used to give them the link to that website. Okay, so that is how we were sharing this information earlier in the World Wide Web, or we were just uploading documents and sending links. But now if we look at Web 2.0, here not only we are sharing this information, but we are actually virtually visible everywhere on the internet. Okay, people can find you on internet, they can connect with you, they can share their content with you. All this can happen in Web 2.0. In www, there was no YouTube, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram and all. All these examples that I gave just now, they are all the components of Web 2.0. Okay. Now there is also another web, we call it Web 3.0. Okay, what is Web 3.0? It is a semantic web. Okay. There, what will happen is, before you give some instructions to the computer, okay, or if you give a few instructions, it will give you optimal solution. Okay, for example, if you write on Google that I want to buy a mobile phone within 10,000, but with the best features, what it will do is it will access all your social media accounts and it will try to show you advertisements for mobile phones. Or if you want to join a gym member, if you want to get a gym membership, or you want to purchase a product. Alternatively, when you access these social media accounts, it will start showing you advertisements for the same. So that is basically what is artificial intelligence. Okay. In Web 2.0, we don't have artificial intelligence. In Web 3.0, or you can say semantic web, we have artificial intelligence. Okay. We will continue in a minute. Don't go anywhere. So these were the three instances of web: World Wide Web, Web 2.0 and Web 3.0, or you can also call it semantic web.